Jesus said to his disciples, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure buried in a field, which a person finds and hides again, and out of joy goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant searching for fine pearls. When he finds a pearl of great price, he goes and sells all that he has and buys it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net thrown into the sea, which collects fish of every kind. And when it is full, they haul it ashore and sit down to put what is good into buckets. What is bad, they throw away. Thus, it will be like that at the end of the age. The angels will go out and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. Do you understand all these things?" They answered, "Yes." And he replied, "Then every scribe who has been instructed in the kingdom of heaven is like the head of a household, who brings from his storeroom both the new and the old." The Gospel of the Lord.
One of the greatest gifts that any of us have been given, and many will say was the greatest gift that any of us have, is the gift of our lives. But at the same time, one of the greatest gifts that the church has, and a practice that she's been celebrating since the beginning, is the veneration of martyrs. In the Basilica of St. Paul in Rome, there's depicted on the walls every pope, all 200 some popes, that have existed in the church's history. And for the first 2 centuries or so, every pope has a halo, because all of those popes gave their lives as witnesses to the church, as martyrs. It seems a little counterintuitive. As Catholics, we do everything we can to uphold the dignity of human life. The sanctity of human life is created in God's image and likeness from the womb to the tomb. Then why do we celebrate martyrs as well? Martyrdom as a good thing is integral to the church's witness to the world and her growth in the world. You see, the martyrs throughout the church's history understood what Jesus was teaching in those first couple of parables that we heard in the gospel today. That as great as the gift of this life is, there's something even greater. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure buried in a field, which a person finds and hides again, and out of joy goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. And again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant searching for fine pearls. When he finds a pearl of great price, he goes and sells all that he has and buys it. Like the treasure or like the pearl, there's nothing of higher value in our lives than Jesus, than our relationship with him. And he's worth giving up everything for, even our earthly lives. I imagine that neither person in those first 2 parables that we heard today necessarily woke up that morning thinking that they were going to sell everything that they had in order to find that treasure or that pearl. But they must have at least been mentally prepared for when and if that day came to be able to give up, willingly and joyfully give up everything that they had for that treasure that they were seeking. The martyrs, likewise, don't go out seeking to be killed, seeking to give their lives in often painful and brutal deaths. But their faith has made them ready and disposed to do this because they knew Jesus, the one for whom they were willing to give their life. St. Thomas More wasn't necessarily trying to lose his friendship with the King of England, but he couldn't compromise his faith. He couldn't compromise his friendship with Jesus in order to keep this earthly favor. And he willingly gave up everything in order to gain his eternal reward. St. Isaac Jogues, likewise, could have stayed in the comfort of France, but he chose to risk his life in order to bring Jesus, the treasure of his heart, to the Americas, to those who have never heard of Jesus before. Saint Maria Goretti, likewise, could have preserved her earthly life by compromising on her morals or that gift of her purity, but instead she willingly gave up her whole life to preserve her chaste heart and to gain her eternal reward. Most of us, especially in this country, aren't going to be demanded that we suffer martyrdom. But like these martyrs throughout the church's history who had the courage to stand fast and to preserve and gain that pearl of great price, that treasure in the field, their eternal life, would we have the courage to not compromise our faith, to not compromise our relationship with Jesus if we were asked to give it all? I think first we can think of on a smaller scale, on a smaller level. Maybe if the Lord were calling me to some religious or priestly vocation that's out of my comfort zone that might make family or friends look at me differently, would I be willing to take that leap to offer up my life for Jesus, trusting that what he has in store is far greater than anything else that I can manufacture on my own? Or would I be willing to forsake a good-paying job if it started to compromise on my moral values or my relationship with Jesus, surrendering to God and his providence, even in the scary and in the unknown? Am I willing to lose friends over my relationship with Jesus? Would I be willing to quit that sports team that overlaps games or practices with Sunday Mass and forces me to compromise that 1 hour a week that is so necessary? Do we stand firm and joyfully surrender even the little things to preserve that one thing necessary, our faith, our relationship with Jesus, that pearl of great price? And if not, how then will we be willing to give up everything for Jesus if he were to present this invitation to us one day?